Alright guys, welcome to the video today. So this video is basically going over the different past PvP metas of Destiny and why the best players adapt with the meta as it goes. Why the best players back then during something like the Suros meta are usually the best players right now in something like the Thorn, Arcbolt, Fellwinter's type of meta, I guess you'd call it. Except for of course some cases where if you're someone that runs around with 10 sensitivity blink shotgun and you don't really use your primary at all, chances are you're most likely going to run into someone in a public match, and if they do very well against you right now about like any type of current time period, chances are they would have done the same thing back in some time like September when the game was a lot fresher and the game I guess just functioned overall a lot different. If people don't remember, basically back then in something like the beta, fusion rifles were very powerful, shotguns were powerful, auto rifles were pretty much the most dominant thing in the game, and hand cannons and pulse rifles were pretty much useless. I'm pretty sure hand cannons did about 76 damage to the head. I think it actually might have been 67. It wasn't even a 3-shot headshot, which really annoyed me, and it got really annoying. So I find, I guess, kind of funny that the best weapons now were the worst weapons back then, so it's kind of weird. But anyways, I'm going to be talking about the gameplay very quickly. This was me playing about 10 months ago. I was that guy that used a Voidwalker and Blink and basically just ran around sniping people with my melee and my Found Verdict, because Found Verdict isn't something as strong as like a Fellwinter's where it can one-shot from a long distance. What would happen a lot of times with players like me is they would blink at someone, get the Found Verdict shot off, usually it would bring them to about half health, and then you could pretty much snipe them with your melee. So that was definitely a very annoying meta, but that's what I used. You might find that kind of shocking considering what I use now. I pretty much use a sniper at all times unless I'm on something like the Xbox One, which is primarily dominated by shotgun players, and I really don't have a strong sniper rifle on that account yet. But for the most part, I don't really use shotguns anymore. Generally, I never used a sniper back then. I played on about an 8 sensitivity. I now play on a 3 and bump it up to about a 4 when I'm using Thorn and shotgun. So that can kind of tell you enough that I've adapted with the meta as it goes. I've changed my playstyle. I used to be the person that ran around with the non-upgraded Suros, the one that shot faster and it melted people very quickly, you know, blink shotgunning with a Found Verdict melee. And now, you know, I use Last Word and a sniper most of the time, sometimes Thorn shotgun. And as about 4 months ago, I used a Hawk Moon and an LDR on a gunslinger. That was about, I guess, the most basic meta you could have gotten. That was my favorite one. And once we kind of moved away from, you know, the Hawk Moon sniper meta into something like Thorn, Arcbolt, shotguns, I was in denial at first, like a lot of people are, you know, kind of on the Bungie forums. If you look at the Bungie forums, pretty much every 5th post is someone complaining. It's going to say to Last Word users or to Thorn users. And if you click on that, it's basically saying that if you use either of these weapons, you have no skill. That's the equivalent of going into Black Ops 2 and complaining about people using something like the PDW and MSMC. I'm not talking about right now because both of these have been slightly nerfed. I'm talking about when the game first came out. They're pretty much the strongest weapons in the game, besides something like an AN-94. I think that's what it's called. But basically the equivalent of saying you shouldn't use these weapons. If you use them, you have no skill whatsoever. The only weapon that takes skill to use is the Chicom CQB, which was one of the worst weapons in the game, at least in my opinion. There's of course I guess a lot worse guns. I can't really remember them off the top of my head. In essence, it's basically saying if you use the best weapons, you're terrible. I guess you could say that, but it doesn't really make any logic. All the best players are going to equip themselves with the best weapons because they want to perform the best, and that's just overall the smartest thing to do. So I just wanted to say that, you know, if you're kind of going to be in denial, you still want to use auto rifles or something, especially moving forward into the next weapon patch. Of course, you know, Last Word and Thorn are going to be the big things getting nerfed along with Hawk Moon. So, you know, if you're kind of in denial and you still want to use those weapons, if they're not the best, of course, feel free to use something else. Don't feel pressure to stick with what you've been doing, because the best thing you can do is adapt with the meta. Playing around with it for a little bit is very important. Once you kind of find that new weapon that dominates PvP, go ahead and use that. It's going to be your best bet. Of course, people didn't use Thorn back in the day. Thorn at this time had 6 in the magazine and it reloaded in about, like, I think I timed it on an old video. It was like 2.5 seconds. It took forever to reload. It was basically considered the crappy hand cannon, the worst hand cannon in the game, and pretty much useless. I was the only one that used it on my friends list. I had a lot of fun with it. I used it even before the burn. I didn't even upgrade the burn for a while. I just overall enjoyed the weapons. So weapons are going to change over time, and people's opinions are going to change about the weapons. I'm really looking forward to some of the new weapons that are going to be included within the DLC, and I want to see how the subclasses and all that perform in PvP. But that's basically it. I just want to leave you with the message that if you're using something now like a Last Word and it's not the best in the future, don't feel pressured to use it. There's going to be better weapons out there for to use. And if you want to be, you know, one of the top performing PvP players on your team in something like a control or skirmish match, go with the best weapon that is currently available to you. If something like, you know, a Suros pulse rifle or an auto rifle or any type of weapon is newly considered the best, if you're kind of looking for the best weapon, if you go on YouTube, I'm sure you can definitely find it. That's what I kind of did during the Black Ops 2 days, to kind of find out which weapons were the best as soon as I bought the game. You can do that. I might make some videos about it, so make sure to check back here if you're looking forward to it in the future once the Taken King comes out. But that's basically all I have for the video today. If you guys did enjoy this video today, drop a like down below. Also subscribe so you do not miss any type of video in the future. And hopefully I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace. Yeah.